Choosing a build can be a bit intimidating for high-level 3v3s. In singles, you're basically choosing what's going to be your avatar, but in teams, not only are you choosing what's your avatar, but also 1/3 of a 3-man teams. You don't want to let these poor guys down. You want to be the best player you can be for the team while still playing some archetype of what you love in Armored Core. I'm making this video to help out those who feel that way, as well maybe those who are just curious about the game mode. Because while the team's meta remains underdeveloped, we still do know what makes a good build and what makes a bad build. I think a really straightforward way to learn about the meta is to divide the main things you see in coordinated teams into 3 categories. These categories are as follows: the diver, the support, and the hybrid. There might be a few unorthodox builds here and there that don't entirely fit into one of these categories, but they probably still contain many of the principles that make these 3 archetypes work. On the surface, the diver is perhaps the most straightforward of the meta builds. They are generally categorized by really fast stagger build and kinetic weapons and 2 high damage back cannons. Most of them are purely assault boost oriented builds, trying to get from one point to another in the shortest amount of time. This helps lock down an enemy who might escape, but also grants them the kinetic assault boost buff. Their ability to reposition is better as well this way, giving a way to save themselves whenever they're sustaining heavy fire or cooling their back weapons. They also have the secondary role of being a consistent terminal armor killer. Disclaimer for those who don't know, term is pretty much mandatory in high level 3s for a variety of reasons, and that deserves its own video. Divers confirm kills most consistently because of the fact they use bullets, particularly weapons that shoot many at once like shotguns. And since you only need one hit to confirm a terminal pop player, divers are practically like beams of corpse collectors because anything it touches is down to fall. They're among the scariest builds for most at close range, but for many of them they're also only threatening at close range. Zim stands as the kind of poster child of the diver class. Zimmerman shotguns are infamous for building up stagger in a nick of time, and while they can snipe people with Fasans from far away, they're mainly the big hitters in close quarters. Fasans in particular are unique because they don't knock staggered enemies away, which is nice, because knockback requires coordination to handle, as it means your allies might miss their follow-up. Another famous build comes from Japan, the Wurger Shield. No heavy back weapons, the Wurgers themselves are kinda like a cannon and a stagger builder at the same time. The upside of doing this is they can offer range support in missiles and some additional protection with the shield, something that can really help with sustaining fire. All of this helps round out the amazing lockdown potential that the Wurger's mini-stun mechanic have. The downside is that its mobility is on the limited side because it's on 20B generator. Some reps can be tough to catch unless they're caught unaware because of this. Also, by combining your neutral weapon with your cannons, it means your total downtime is a little high as charged Wurgers immediately overheat upon use. Quad shotguns, another diver build, are kinda weird because they don't have crazy back cannons at all. The Haldeman shotguns they use are more like little needles that pull someone into a vortex for your team to pounce on. That's because their stagger punishes take a little longer to get going, but they make it up by consistent uptime and lockdown levels, even surpassing Wurger Shield. Being on Burzel Booster means they're very slippery builds, kinda like an assassin, and it makes it so they're really good at chasing down someone and generating picks for a team. Though, while their burst speed is terrifying, their prolonged chase and assault boost is a bit on the risky side, and it can be easy to trick these guys into unsafe positions where they'll easily get popped into terminal. Albeit they're still one of the scariest builds in the game on 1 AP, but I digress. Some other variations of divers include Zim LCD, Zim LCS, Heavy Zim RJ, Exogen Earshot, Melee RJ, Larpster, Laser Swap, and more. Support might not sound like a real build for a game like this, but they honestly are. They're kinda like the little archer dudes of a fight. Whereas divers are optimized for damage at close ranges, supports are optimized for stagger buildup at long ranges. Pretty much every good support build is defined by having an abundance of missiles, which is to help initiate staggers for the rest of the team to capitalize on. They usually don't have incredible stagger punishes themselves because they leave that role for the teammates. This is combined with oftentimes the best assault boost in the lobby, being able to travel for long distances at high speeds, and with reduced impact buildup. This does mean they lack self-sufficiency, however, and it's up to the team to capitalize on their missiles as well as protect them such that they can get comfortable positions to fire volleys. So if your team is disjointed from you, this build does get heavily punished. But team play, they sure shine in. Supports are also fantastic at scouting. Being high up in the sky and having a great scan head part means they're very adept at calling out to their team where enemies are on the map. Pretty much everything here mentioned is quintessential to the classic missile rat. Extremely mobile and difficult to catch. These guys cannot be ignored, nor can they be overchased. And if given enough care, they can control the pace of a match single-handedly. But while fast, classic missile rats are practically helpless if locked down. They're usually pretty fragile and have no way to really defend themselves in close range. They have no immediate threat in their terminal armor besides just shooting more missiles as well. If you want to play a classic missile rat but don't like getting one shot, then Missile Boat is your best friend. Having great burst movement and sturdiness, this build can be really annoying to catch. Hell, sometimes it wants to be chased given how long it could take even 2 people to take it down. However, with great bulk comes great responsibility, because you are the single largest hurt box in the entire game, making it incredibly difficult to avoid cannons. This can be circumvented by deadfalling, but it's still a weakness overall. And if you're kicked out of your Assault Boost startup lag, which definitely can happen, your chances of getting any meaningful volleys before dying is as bad, if not sometimes even worse than a classic missile rat. Furthermore, while missile volleys are amazing at building up stagger, their actual direct hit adjustment is just alright. Even when dumping a full volley as a stagger punish, you're only going to be doing about half health to someone unless they're lightweight. Having all missiles also means confirming terminal armor can be a bitch at close range unless you have a plasma missile like PFAL. Which is why, alongside the previous point, some supports replace one of their missiles with some bullet weapon of some sort, especially something heavy hitting like an LRB, Rebula, or even Redshift Blade. This gives them a little bit more self-sufficiency since they can get a pretty nice stagger punish in for themselves. Some other support variations include Missile Lambs, Scorch Missile Rat, and Nebula Tank. There aren't too many other variations I know of that aren't already covered, for only missiles really do the job of support right. I really wouldn't recommend making a support build with rifles, therapists, or napalm launchers. It's not really gonna end well. The last category is reserved for hybrids, and things get a little bit muddy here. They stand unique amongst the group because they're not optimized for single range or role in a fight. They have solid, flexible counterattacking opportunities for all opposing team comps. This also means they're oftentimes easy for teams to build around too, since they can do multiple things at once. Truthfully, this category is so broad it can be a bit hard to define, so I guess picture it like a build that combines the self-sufficiency of a diver and the ranged utility of a support without being particularly dominant in both. Some are better at one range than another, but that's the general philosophy of a hybrid. If normal missile rats were like little archer dudes, then earshot rats are archer dudes who drop a block of TNT in your mailbox once every 9 seconds. Someone I knew once called it the Roadrunner build because they run away for half the game, but then randomly blow you up once in a while. I thought that was pretty funny. This trade of missiles for giant grenade launchers means they consistently have to look for more aggressive angles to get an earshot in, sometimes even being capable themselves to lead the charge if they absolutely have to. Doing this can be extremely rewarding, for this lets you either delete a staggered enemy or even set up a stagger on an enemy. Earshots can also be used defensively by manually aiming the floor you call massive impact onto nearby enemies, which can even stagger them outright if close enough. They're honestly really tricky fellows, and can be tough to pinpoint where exactly they'll go. And because they require utmost attention, lest be earshotted out of vision, it's always terrifying whenever they're on the map. You could kind of consider them as the mages of 3v3s, because they rely on this long cooldown, teamfight altering ability that either stuns or deals massive damage in a large given area. The downside is in the nature of earshots themselves, because a bad earshot, or sometimes even a good one, means 9 seconds of being a shittier missile rat. This can cause them to be disjointed with the rest of their team, or risk getting caught at close range for trying to get a better angle. So if you want a missile build that can really brawl its way through enemies, then Crab Knight is a great option. It's a variation of the Crab Knight you'd find in singles, some of which even drop the shield altogether for more missiles, named the Crab Zerker. The game plan of this build starts by firing volleys of missiles using the Tetris float stance. From there it can decide to either keep shooting missiles or dive onto a vulnerable target. The latter being accomplished by kicking them and then following it up with a hammer. It's a build that can support an assault with long-range missiles, but still has no problem holding its own in close-quarter scraps. And I think it's a great example of how some singles builds can still work in teams with the right adjustments. That said, Crab Knights are really vulnerable to heavy back weapons. Weapons like earshots, LCDs, and facades really take advantage of their limited evasion, and unlike tanks, they don't quite have enough stability or bulk to take too many of them. A shield does help Crab Knight a lot, but your neutral prowess at range drops significantly if done so. And that can cause either your build to get outpaced or baited into a bad spot, especially since Crab Knights are fairly slow and have low EN efficiency. Some other hybrid builds include LCD Boat, Rebula Lamb, LCD Tank, Laser Kite, and more. And those are the 3v3 archetypes. I'm not saying you should copy and paste one of these builds down to the exact frame. It's not really the intent of this video at all. But I do think taking inspiration from them will take your building endeavors to the next level. And that said, I do think playing some of these builds will really help you get a grasp on the build philosophy of teams, and you can apply all of that knowledge to make your very own dream machine while not bottom scoring every lobby you enter. I hope you guys really enjoyed this more instructional video. PvP teams is easily my favorite way to play Armored Core 6, and I really wanted to answer a common question amongst newer 3s players for my first of this kind. I also might make a full build guide on what's far and away my favorite build in this game, Earshot Rat, so if you're interested in a video on that, definitely let me know. And as always, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Okay.
Kill tank, women!
I misses on him, I misses on him! Yes!
Yeah!
Oh, fuck you! You're gonna tell me last time, last second? It's your fucking turn, dude!